Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about Newton's first law of motion. So what does Newton's first law of motion talk about? Newton's first law of motion can actually be divided into two categories. The first one is object at rest. Object at rest means that the object is not moving. And the second portion is object in motion. So object in motion means that the object is moving. So what does Newton say about this law? So it mentioned that an object which is at rest, it will continue at rest unless we have external force. And the same applies to the second part, which is the object in motion. Newton mentioned that the object which is in motion will continue moving at a constant velocity unless we apply external force on it. So today I'm going to talk about the first portion of this law of motion, which is the object at rest. So now, imagine now you have a ball here on the ground. Alright, the ball is currently at rest, which is not moving. So we can analyze the force in two axes. So imagine this is the axis. We have x-axis and we have a y-axis here. So let's talk about the y-axis first, which is the downward force and the upward force. So if I draw on the coordinate here, it will be like this. So for downward force, I have F equals to mg, which is the weight of the ball. So whereby the m is the mass and the g is the gravitational acceleration. So imagine this is a steel ball. We have a 10 kg mass and gravitational acceleration is a fixed figure, 9.8 meter per second square. If I multiply, the force will be 98 kilogram meter per second square. So at this point, I would say the downward force, which is acted by the gravity, is 98. So here you have a 98 kilogram meter per second square. So this is what we call as a downward force. So how about the upward force? The upward force here, we have a name. We call it as normal force, or we can call it as a reaction force. So when you put object on the ground, you will have an upward force, which is a reaction raised by the object. Alright, so the ball is now not moving. So the upward force is also 98 kilogram meter per second square. So in this case, the upward force and the downward force are the same, which is for the F in the upward direction equals to F in the downward direction. It is 98 kilogram meter per second square and 98 kilogram meter per second square. So in this case, the ball is not moving at the upward or downward direction. The ball does not fly up, and the ball does not sink to the ground. Why? Because I do not have an external force. There is no net force applied on it. So, in terms of y-axis, there is no external force. So, the object remains at rest in y-axis, y direction. So now let's come to another part for object at rest. How about the x-axis? So we have this in the x-axis, the right hand side and the left hand side. So the right hand side is the frictional force. As for the left hand side, let's say there is no wind in the right direction. No wind. And I do not kick it. If there is no wind at the right hand side direction, or I do not kick it from the right hand side direction, I would say this arrow here, the external force is 0. F external from right hand side to left hand side equals to 0. Because why? I don't have any force that cause it move. Okay, so for this frictional force, so because the ball we put it on the ground, we will definitely have a friction force that prevent it from moving. So in this case, we will have a same magnitude of the frictional force that push from the left side to the right side. All right, so if let's say we put it in formula, F by, let's say we say the wind or we kick it, equals to 0. And we have a frictional force at the right hand side direction. So because they are both having the same, so we will say F wind equals to F friction. So let's represent this F wind kick become F1, and this we use F2 to represent it. Net force calculation is F1 minus F2. And because we say F1 equals to F2, we replace this with F1. So F1 minus F1. So why this F2 become F1? Because F1 equals to F2. So when F1 minus F1, it will be 0 Newton. So I would say the net force, or in terms of Newton's first law of motion, we call it as external force, equals to 0 Newton. When we say equals to 0 Newton, it means that there is no external force, or you can say there is no net force. So come back to the top here. We say in terms of x-axis, which is the x direction, the net force equals to 0. There is no external force. That's why in terms of x direction, the ball is not moving as well. So if I redraw this whole situation down here, so this is the ball and this is the ground. So the ball is not moving up and the ball does not sink down. The ball also does not move to the right side nor to the left side. So that's why at this situation, we fulfill the first law of first law of motion, which is when the object is at rest, it will continue at rest, because we do not have any external force applied on it. Okay, so this video explains the first part of Newton's law of motion. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about the second part, which is object in motion, where we say the object which is moving will continue move at constant velocity unless it is acted upon by an external force. So see you in my next video. Thank you.